Hello. Straight to the point, the reason why this tutorial is better than all the other millions of tutorials out there is because I make music in a way that's completely different to everyone else in the whole entire world. Today I'm going to show you how to make a decent song with completely free software and the best way to make it original. So first off, we're going to go to the LMMS website. Download this, figure out which version of Windows you're running. So right click that, go to properties, and there it says it there, 64-bit. When you've installed it, open it up. And this is the home screen of the most frustrating piece of software that I've ever used. This is your main area that you're going to be working in. When you finish a bit of a song, it'll come up here as a blob. And so you'll have a blob of this part, and a blob of this part, and then a blob of this part. And so it'll play along the top, and it'll hit this part, make some noise, hit this part, make some other noise, hit this part. And so you can have middle mouse button is delete. There's heaps of stupid keys in this software. Anyway, let's get on with it. So you are going to get the instruments. Alan Vista. Windows 64 VST. Be careful not to click on any spam. We'll see where it's downloading to. Okay, it's going to the downloads folder. That's fine. You need to go to settings, paths, I think. VST plugin directory, that's where your Alan Vista plugins will be saving to. Make sure that your folders are unzipped before you try to make them work, otherwise you'll spend ages trying to fix it and it'll just get really frustrating. Yep, DSK dynamic guitars. Go to this top one. This seems to be the only free one that actually sounds alright. And it doesn't have a chord-based system of input, which is just confusing because we're not using A, B, C, D, E, F, G in my method. So all the other VST plugins are crap, or they're going to take hundreds of hours that you could be using to be making music. They're going to take that amount of time to learn. There's one called Tal, which is Tal Noisemaker, that's the one. Free, but it will also take you a very long time to make anything decent sounding, a long time to learn, but if you do want to go the completely free route, you can do that. In general, you're much better off getting a paid program such as FL Studios or Ableton or Reason, just any of the big ones, to not have to worry about any of this and get on with making music. But this is fine. Okay, so we've got the VST plugin. This is your VST plugin. Double click on this. Click on the green folder to load your plugin. These are the ones that we've downloaded. Here's your marimba phonic one. Never press on this X because it doesn't close it properly. Always click on this button. It's just another perk of this software. If you click on that X, there'll be one running in the background, and if you do that too many times, so you open it, close it, you're going to have a whole bunch of these running in your background and your computer will run really slowly, so don't do that. Don't touch the reverb until the end of your music making, because when you add reverb and you play a note, there's going to be a carryover after you let go. And so when you play two notes, the sound of the second note will be blurred from the leftover sound from the first note, and you'll end up with a very messy sounding system. So don't add reverb on anything until the end of your mixing. So let's get on with it. Right click on one of these blocks to open in piano roll. So in standard music, you have the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's how it works. That's completely wrong. I'll show you why. The only thing that these gaps do is make it very confusing later on when you're trying to work things out. So we're going to use my method, which is quite different. And count like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. We're going to pick a random note and make that our 1. Alright, so that's our 1. To make a major chord, we're going to use 1, 5, and 8, and we're going to call them positive chords instead of major chords, and negative chords instead of minor chords, because major and minor is just confusing. For a positive chord, we're going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 5, and 8. That's a positive chord. For a negative chord, we'd use this. So we've got a positive chord here. This is where my method becomes very, very different. We are going to have chord progressions, and we're going to have 3 groups of chord progressions, and you'll be able to choose one of these for your song, and it won't matter which one you choose, it's going to sound great. So for the positive chords, I've made 3 main groups of chord progressions for my method. So I'm going to show you the first one. It'll sound quite familiar for you. To make it snap to the bar, we're going to change that. Need one there, one there, one there, one there. So for each of my chord progressions, we're going to use 4 bars. That's all you need. So for the first chord progression, it's going to be 1. So that's our 1. So chord 1, chord 8. So we're going to move this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, went too fast. Should have counted that one. And this one's going to be chord 10, negative. Grab that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Could have just as easily gone, hold down Control, gone up an octave and down 3. That would also bring me to chord 10. Doesn't really matter how you do it. 10 negative. To make it a negative, remember we just hold down Shift, bring that down 1, and then 6 positive. So hold down Shift. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6. Because that one's 8. That's 2 above. Yep. So this sound, I can't really hear that. Why are we so high up? I'm going to grab everything in Control and drop it down a few octaves. Now that's starting to sound familiar if you've ever heard a pop song. For the rhythm for these chords, we're going to fit 5 in the time of 4. So if this is the beat, we're going to put the chords in like this. That sort of rhythm, or a slight variation of it. So we're going to zoom in a bit to this first one. So hold down Control and zoom in. See this faded line? We're going to want to go to the third one. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Always turn on the metronome when you're working at the start until you don't need it anymore. So it's going to sound like 1, 2, 3. I'm going to drop that metronome down a bit. It's a little bit hard to work with. I'm going to be changing that later, don't worry. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. So we don't really have enough space to make that rhythm here because we've got these other chords in the way. So I'm just going to delete these for now because we're going to be copying this over anyway. Oops. Shift D to move. So at the moment it sounds like this. So that's one of the rhythms that we can choose. We could also choose this one. Or this one. Or this one. It's up to you which one you want to choose. But you just want to have 5 of these blobs anymore, and it's going to sound crowded. Any less and it's not going to, it'll still sound alright if you have less. Don't delete any notes yet. We're going to delete them if it sounds too full with everything else. It's better to have too much and then delete than not enough and not know where to put stuff. So Control C, we'll move on to our next chord, which if you remember was 1, 8, 10, negative, and 6. Yeah, well then do done done. I'll be giving it my bestest, and nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. Blah blah blah. You've heard this a million times. They are chord progressions, but they're a group of chord progressions. So I'm going to call them chord clusters, if that's all right with everyone. So if you drag, for example, this one, there's slight variations on each of these groups. That Beyonce Halo song is more of a 3 negative for this one, I think. So that's 1, 2, 3. I'll quickly chuck in the melody so you can hear it. Yeah, you should be able to hear that in your head. So that's a slight variation of this one. You can do this if you want. This 3 negative. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. Go into here, make sure I've got the right one. So cluster 1, you hear that all the time. Cluster 2 you also hear all the time, which is this one. For cluster 2, the first one's a 6. I'm going to keep the same whatever note that is for all of these clusters that we're doing, just so it's easier to compare them when you listen to them afterwards. Cluster 2, this is going to be a 6, 6, 8, 1, 10. And the 10 has to be a negative. You almost always want the 10s to be negatives and the 5s to be negatives at least. So this is what this one's going to sound like. So that's 6, 8, 1, 10. So this is our second cluster. This one's got a variation at the moment on it for that Beyonce song. This one, we'll give it a variation. A nice one is changing this one for a 4. So it's 10. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's this. Just check that. 4. Oh, 5, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 negative. This one's going to be 6, 1, 8, 10. So even though it's a small difference in the structure of it, this is going to be a big difference in the sound. So 6, 8, 10. So easy to change over because we can just swap this. still have the 5 negative here, which actually doesn't sound too bad. Oh, we could leave it like that. We'll change it to the 10 for now. That's the 10. Yep. So that's our clusters done. Now we'll go on to making the melody. It's important to do it in this order, so clusters first. It's important to do it in this order, so clusters first, then the melody, and then the drum beat. And I'll explain why later. But basically it's because when we're making this random melody, it's going to have a certain rhythm to it, and you want to pick the drum beat that complements the rhythm. So the problem that a lot of songs have is that they will have the drum beat first and then chuck in the melody, and then you're left with like a 50-50 chance as to whether or not those two match. But we can actually match the drum beat to this melody that we're going to make. Because there's a lot less drum beats and melodies, it's important that the melody sounds nice, because drum beats are a lot easier to make. Okay, so we've finished our clusters. We're going to add a melody. Piece of guitar. First things first, copy over, we're choosing this one, copy this over to here. Just turn that off for now. First off, we're going to remember what our ones are. For the melody making, you're going to have 4 sets of ones. So this is our first one, this is our second one, this is our third one, and this is our fourth one. You're going to isolate these. We're going to copy this. Here we go. Notice that this VST plugin is not playing the slow one. Oops. Hold on. It's fine. For our melody, we're not going to use this pattern. So for each of these ones, that one, the next one, and the last one, we're going to make a random melody, following a few simple rules. Remember, with this last one, it's a negative. The rules are going to be slightly different. For each one of these, we're going to give it a random note between 1 and 12. So there's only a few that we're allowed to give it. We're allowed to give it a 1, a 3, a 5, a 6, an 8, a 10, or a 12. We're counting the 12 as a separate instance because since this is the bass note, we want to hit it more likely than not. And that's fine. So we've got a total of 7. So 3. So remember we had 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 12. The third one in that is 5. So we're going to move that to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I think it was a 3 and a 2. 2 is a 3. For this last one, we have a different set of numbers. We have 1, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 12. It's a total of 6 different numbers. Cool. If you followed me this far, you're doing really good. Maybe have a breather. I'll still be here. Just check that these sort of... Nothing sounds too out of place. If there was something like this, you notice it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this first blob and roll the dice, and if we get something between 3 and 6, we're going to delete that many notes. And when we roll a 3 or a 4, we're going to delete that many notes. Three. Random ones. Okay. Next section. 3. Doesn't matter which ones you delete. Remember, these base ones aren't a part of this. We're going to delete them later. Now we're going to do the same thing between a 2 and a 3. So roll a dice. When you hit a 2 or a 3, we're going to add that many notes in between these. And this is a little bit tricky, so just follow me. We'll start with an easy one, this one. The note that we have between them has to be in between the ranges. So if this one's up there, this one's down there, the note has to be somewhere in between there. But because these are the same range, there's only one option. We had 3, didn't we? We're going to choose these 2 next. The notes have to be next to each other, so we can't choose this one and this one. To figure out which ones we're allowed to put, we'll take the bass note, which in this area is this one, because this row falls, this column falls in that row. So if that's our 1, remember this is a positive one, so we can choose 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, or 12. Where is that? So that's our 1. Our 3 is there, our 5 is there, so we could choose one of these ones. We might just choose this one for now and put it in like that because it's halfway between. We could choose these 2, why not? So this is our 1 in this section. One, 4, 6, 8, 9. So 1, 7, 8, or 9. One of these 2. Sweet. Make sure that when you're doing this, you're not deleting like 3 in a row or putting in like a random run here and then have nothing over there. So don't be silly about it. Just try to sort of spread it out. Nice and even. You want a nice even texture when you put this in the oven. So you probably want to limit yourself to 1 note per bar added, 1 note per bar taken away, sort of deal. Alright, that should be our first melody. Before I delete the bass notes, I'm going to copy this. Oh, where's my clone? I'm going to clone this and empty this. So we're back to our bass. Back to the basics. Yeah, cool. There's some nice things in there. There's a lot of notes that I don't like, but that's alright. We'll keep going. We'll plow on. So we're going to do this 3 times, and after we've made the melody, we're going to adjust these and then add in the drums. Exciting. Okay, don't have a 6 on the first beat. Next step is to make our chords sound nice. So we're going to have different chords for the verses and the chorus. For both of these, we're going to grab random blobs, hit the control, move them to a different octave, mixing it up a bit, maybe delete one here and there. Before you delete these bass ones, it's probably good to put a bass in our main part. Remember what they are. I've put them on the clipboard. So you're going to go to My Samples on the side, Drum Synth, Misc Bass, More Bass 2, drag it in. This is the only bass that sounds half decent in this whole program. Open piano roll, paste our stuff in. Oops. This is not long enough. You can hear it clipping. Oops. Still doesn't sound very nice, but it's the best that's available. So. Drop the volume a little bit because otherwise you hear it clipping and spiking. Okay. Remember, for the verses, we're going to delete some of these chords because we want the chorus to be more busy than the verses. So a few rules on things not to delete. Don't delete the first 3 of any of these bars. You can grab them and move them with the control button, but don't delete them. We can delete these now because we've got the bass. You can delete any other ones. That was a bit fancy, that last one. We don't need to do that. Can if you really want to, but don't do that. Probably. Must be time for our drums. For our drums, there's a very limited number of drums that we can use in this program. For our hi-hat, closed 01. Delete this. Make sure you save the project before you start on the drums, because it's very easy to screw this up and lose everything. We are going to use a hand clap. And we are going to use kick. So we're going to use kick 02. Drag that one over. Kick 02 sounds the best. So we've done 3 types of positive clusters, and now I'm going to give you 3 types of beats. First one I call the rock beat, just So listening to it, you're going to want to change a whole bunch of effects. For example, you're going to want to start panning things slightly. Not the kick or the bass, don't pan those. But everything else you want to pan slightly, and you want to add reverb to everything. But before you do this, and before you add the drum beat, it's very important to decide how you want your melody to go, because that's going to determine how that you want your drum beat. So turn these off for now. In LMMS, muting a track will mute it globally rather than locally. If you don't know what I mean by that, don't worry. Just be aware that when you mute stuff here and you adjust the part that we're working on, it will carry over the fact that it's muted. So for example, if I unmute that and go to verse 1, it's unmuted there as well. Be aware of that. So we're going to do the verses. So the way to mute the parts that we don't want for the verse is by holding down Control and middle clicking on the parts that we don't want. And that will be relative to the part that we're in. So for the verse, we're going to want the verse melody. The verse chorus, verse stabs, and verse bass. There's 2 of these for the chorus. Remember to change it up there. Hold down Control. Oops. The second verse, your layout's going to look like this, and then depending on how long it is, might need to add in an extra chorus, or if it's too long we might need to take that out and just have a shorter second verse and drag everything else along. For the bridge, we can have the stabs from the verses or the stabs from the chorus. We also might want a different bass line in some of the song, maybe less bass notes for the verse. Just remember that every time we add something here, we're going to have to go through all of these and change it. Soloing the bass, we can hear it doesn't sound very sounds like it's hitting too hard at the start, clipping a bit. To fix that, we can either lower the volume, but we can still hear it clipping a bit. So for reference, that clipping sound is, oh yeah, it's not very nice. So we probably want it about that volume. To get rid of the clipping sound, we're going to change the attack on it. This will also help it get out of the way for the kick drum when the kick comes in. But it's not the best way to get it out of the way of the kick drum. The best way is to do something called side chaining, which will make the kick drum sound really punchy. But we're not doing that now. This is fine for now. Alright, let's make some lyrics. The best way to make lyrics is by getting 3-syllable words. And for each one of these, there's a reason that they're 3 syllables. We're going to make what I call a stem. So when we think about these words, we want to think about the sounds that are made when we say it. Adequate. Adequate. We want to focus on the vowel sounds and come up with other 3-syllable words or a combination of 2-syllable or 4-syllable words that will have the same effect for the vowels. Don't worry about the rhythm yet. Just make sure that the words that we have, banana probably will never sound that great in a song, so we'll get rid of that. Also, the vowel sounding was ah, which is quite difficult to have similar sounding combinations for. Adequate. Candle lit. Understanding it. Have a hand in it. And I'll make a 5th one. You only really need 4 to make a stem, but we'll have the 5th one just in case. Black jacket is an example of a bad one because the emphasis, if you say it naturally, the emphasis is going to be on the ja. In this situation, we want the emphasis to be on the kit. So adequate. Black jacket. We would say black jacket, not black jacket. We could change the way we say adequate. Adequate, which doesn't sound right either. So black jacket is an emergency one in case this whole thing falls apart, which it may. Amazement's quite good because it's sort of got a amazement, adequate, a similar sort of vibe to adequate, amazement. But there is a different amount of force put on the middle bit compared to adequate, amazement. You wouldn't say it like that, you would say amazement. Which is okay because each one of these is going to be in a different block, so it's good for them to be different. Amazement, a raisin, a statement, impatient. What's something a little bit different that sounds interesting? What about I'm naked, amazement. That's stretching it a bit, but that's fine. Attention. Ending on shin is quite a common way to end the 3-syllable words, so be careful that you don't use this too much. Attention. You notice that it's really easy to rhyme with it, like invention, suspension, blah blah blah. Don't do that. Try to think of other combinations that are more unusual, like throw a wrench in. That's not a very good one because it would require some sort of overflow into the next sentence most probably, but we'll try to make it work. Drenched in. That's a little bit of a stretch because you have to pronounce the ed on drenched. Henchman won't sound that great in a song either. I read it. Attractive. A sand pit. And I would. That is too far off from attractive, I think. That last one's not very nice either. Average. You don't really say the v, so it's more a, u. with a zh sound. If we can. If we can't, that's fine. Notice that most of these have 2 vowel sounds. This last one, you could say that 4 pretty fast, and you would be able to say stand fret, average. Close enough. Bicycle. This is another situation where you could have icicle, tricycle, but you want to think of something twice as cool. Just throwing myself off. Make it sound nice and all. That might be a bit too colloquial. Colloquial's a bit far removed. This is another carryover situation where it might end up leaking into the next sentence, but we can make that work. This is a nice one because you can think of a lot of situations in songs where this would fit in perfectly. Blindingly. So for each of these, we're going to make sentences that will make sense. But before we do that, we need to put these in the optimal order. And for that, we need to rate them. Which one is the nicest sounding one? Normally it will be the first one because we've based everything else off that. So I'll put a 1 there, drag it to the top of the stem. So we'll put a 4 there because we want the nicest one at the bottom. We want to find the 2 that are the most similar and pick the nicest one of the 2 and put it at the bottom. We want to figure out which 2 rhyme the best, and then we want to pick the best one of the similar ones and put it at the bottom. Understanding it, hand in it, candle it, adequate. I think candle it and hand in it maybe 1 and 2. Yeah, we'll call them 1 and 2. We want the worst sounding one to be at the start. I think understanding it might be the worst one. So now we've got the order. We want to make sentences that roll with them. And we build these sentences backwards. So understanding it, maybe someone's trying to understand something. Are you understanding it? Did you have a hand in it? Some songs are about the singer not being good enough, so maybe something like, am I adequate? Am I inadequate? Was I not? Try to avoid words like not and words that are just by nature negative. Use any substitute word, just don't use not. Candlelit. No, that's obviously way too long compared to the other ones, but don't worry about any of that for now. And I don't like this last one. Writing about love is the easiest thing to write about, so we'll go with that for all of these. We'll try and make these all about love. If they're not about love, that's fine. We can just leave them out, save them for later. I'm going to go through the rest of them and I'll make comments if there's anything interesting. If you were reading a poem, which 2 would you find quite nice to be paired in this poem? Amazement, a raisin, a statement, impatient, I'm naked. I don't see us ever using raisins. Crab is not a very nice word to have in a song. Here we have an interesting situation where we've sort of got two pairs of rhymes. Take this out for a minute to show you what I mean. Time is short and nice and all. These two sound a lot more similar than twice as cool, bicycle. So here we can do something a little bit special. If we have two pairs, we pick the nicest pair, the nicest one last, the second to nicest one third place, and then the other pair, we have the worst one at the start and the nicer one halfway through. I shouldn't really pre-decide the extra ones until I've done the sentence, because maybe even though it sounds worse, the sentence will make it fit in better, but this gets quite tiring and I just want to get through it. Cool, so if we have one of these for the verse, one of these for the chorus, one of these for the second verse and one of these for the bridge, that means we have a surplus. We could either have the first verse twice as long with an extra one, the second verse twice as long with an extra one, but we don't need to do that. The idea is that you build up a portfolio of these, and then when you have a new song and you want to make it about a specific theme, you collect the ones that are about a specific theme, and if you have 100 of these, maybe 10 of them will be about the theme that you're after. The rhythm of these can be all over the show, which is fine at the moment, because it's going to make us more creative later on. So for example, we wouldn't pronounce this I'm naked, we would say I'm naked. A statement, instead of a statement. And that's fine at the moment, that the beat would fall on the naked. Whereas over here the beat would fall over here, and we've still got an extra 2 vowels. Over here we have the beat and then 1 vowel, and then probably a space until the next statement, the next line. That's fine at the moment, don't worry about that. I know this sounds like really crappy love poetry, but don't worry, it's going to get better. I read it. What's something you can read? A diary. Ooh, naughty. A toolbox is not something that we want in a song. So maybe like plans, throw a wrench in the plans, or a heart. So how I imagine this part would go is, do you think this is standard? Because I don't want to stand for it. Da 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 damage. Da 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 average. So this stand for it would still be rushed. So it wouldn't be I don't want to stand for it. It would be I don't want to stand for it. And if you don't do it that way, this will feel very strange because these two won't match this one. So I'm going to spend a few hours trying to rework these sentences to flow better within themselves and get like an overarching theme. So I'll just be changing little words here and there. And then we'll be ready to integrate that with the music. Exciting. Alright, time to add in the vocals. So go to audacityteam.org/download. Hit record, play this with headphones on. We're gonna need an extra bar in here so we have some time to get in, because if we play it now, it's gonna go straight away. So we're going to come in over here. Okay, so that was a practice run. Me, let my guard down and I'm naked. Hello, testing. Hello, testing. You can see it's only coming through on one ear. When you hit a problem like this, don't spend ages trying to look for it in the menus. Google it. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Much better. The rest of it all sounds fine. Now we'll do a proper run through. Remember for this run through that if something goes wrong, make sure that your words are really clear, because it will be easier to go back and fix what went wrong if your words are clear, not all slurred together like this and constantly going on and there's ohs and ahs, and it's hard to patch together if it's flowing over, so try to avoid that for now. So I'm going to close the door, reduce the background noise. Saw your diary and I read it. You want to build an intensity in the chorus, which I forgot to do, so I'm going to restart it. Okay, well that was fairly garbage. Before we start editing it, we can export this and drag it into here. Oh, it's one of these, I can't remember, but we're not going to do that yet. We're just going to go to effects so we can remove all the background noise. Oh, we need to select all of it after we've got the profile. Still a click. We're just going to do that again. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to spread it from the top to the bottom, so it's making full use of the spectrum. Control A, amplify. It'll automatically choose the maximum that you can do without clipping, so that's great. Normally I would repeat this a few times, find the highest point, this one, find where the blob starts and ends. Amplify. And do that over and over until it looks fairly uniform. Normally people will select all and normalize, which is a lazy way of doing what I just did to fatten up the middle. One of the main issues with this recording is going to be the pitchiness. So to export it, Control E. Always max everything out when I export it. There's a couple of other effects that we're going to do to the voice. Select your track, go to Effect, go to Filter Curve, go to Manage, Factory Presets, Bass, Boost, because your computer mic will not be picking up any bass. Click on that. I saw your diary and So my track has some horrible breaths. These never sound good. Don't believe what anyone says. So go to Effects, Amplify, -20, it's fine. Grab the next breath, repeat. So to repeat is Control R, so you can grab it. Control R, check it sounds alright with the previous blob to the next one.
Janet, did you?
There's no,
Did you?
there's a little bit of clipping.
Did
So we'll grab a smaller bit, repeat.
Janet, did you? Did you just read it?
Control 3 is zoom out, Control 2 is back to normal. So this is finished exporting. It's in the projects. There it is. So this part was accountant. Control X, zoom in. This next part's going to take forever, but you have to go through each blob and adjust the pitch to make it sound nice with the instruments. Remember to save it every now and then, because you don't want to get halfway through and then it crash. So especially for me, this pitch is all over the show. So we are going to, let's find the first pitchy bit.
Your diary and
There. That needs to be lowered a little bit. So we're going to lower it a tiny bit.
your diary
And then we're going to use Control R. So we're going to go through and find all the bits that need to be lowered. And even though this might need to be lowered a lot, if it was a lot more pitchy like most of the rest is, I can hit Control R twice instead of having to adjust it every time I edit a bit that needs to be changed. So I'm going to do that. This might take a while. And afterwards I'm going to do it, the bits that need to go up. I'm going to do all of them in one go, and then I can hit Control R instead of having to change it every time I hit a blob that needs to be changed. That one's got clipping, so we have to try a different bit. Of course, we need to copy and paste blank spaces to fix the timing. Alright, so as you can see, this looks a bit different. Don't get overwhelmed. It's not that complicated. What I've done here is I've taken our Latin beat, because now you've got that that reference audio to listen to, and listen to the chunks that you like and the themes that you want to maybe repeat a few times. And now you're going to decide which of these three beat types that you want to assign to it. So the first one is a Latin one. You want that around 1-3-1. Maybe slightly more, slightly less, doesn't really matter. This is what it's going to sound like. That's the general beat there, so I'll probably maybe do it slightly faster. If you were going to choose this one, you would make the words follow a rhythm that would complement this beat. So something like ba 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 ba, and then of course the melody would be something from this melody. Where is it there? The reason you're only hearing this half the time is because we're going to double it, but we're not going to do that yet because it's going to mess up everything if we do that now. So we have to do that at a future point. It's just a problem in LMMS. If you double it, there's no Control Z when you double it, so just do that later. The second one is this halftime one. Second type of beats. And all beats in music are a variation of one of these three types. Add in a few more kicks and then swing it, or something maybe with extra snares on the quarters instead of the halves. So this one's going to sound 140. So when you listen to that beat and you're going to put vocals to it, you want to sort of understand where that beat would complement the vocals. So at what point that adding the words would make it sound really like punchy. So it's normally to do with the kick and the snap. So something like this. Whenever dun 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 da 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 da. The third option is this one, which is kind of similar to the halftime one, but it's normally a bit more reliant on the rhythm of the hi-hat. You can see I've added in a ride here. You can just find that instrument thing, you don't have to do that. Adds a bit more colour. For me personally, I like that. So rhythm for this one would be da 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 ba 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 ba
bam bam.
I got some stems for this one I've got here. So it goes something like this. Let's turn this up. I'm a bad boy, another cheat. Gonna hassle them if they get under me. You tell me half the fun's in the base, but for me, half the fun is in the battle of the beat. So I put them on the back foot. You understanding it? Is my rapping that good? Is it adequate? I mean, I showed it to God and he said he's a fan of it. Ooh, that was a bit off. But you can see the sort of rhythm that you go for. Or something slightly different would be like dun 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 dun. So, but me, I just wanna put the R to the EAL. I want a fast car with the decent bells. He's gonna go far, far as we can tell. I tell him he goes hard, let him be himself. Da 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 da. So that's sort of more fast-paced rappy, or you could make it slower. There's an infinite number of choices you have here. So basically, look at your stems, try to think about which of these three options would suit your lyrical style, the rhythms that you're thinking about the most. For me, let's have a look. I've done a bunch of different stems and combinations between the stems. And then I'll put the beat at the top. So like this Latin one. You notice how I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, so we find that, what beat have we got? I should really put the number as well. So that's the 1 of the bar, and then the lyrics come in sort of halfway between the 1 and the 2. And there's an emphasis there, and that one seems to come in halfway through. This one, I probably mean for that to land on the 4. So what does that sound like? Want something twice as cool. Pass me up on your bicycle. Nice and old. On the need of a ride to school. Or maybe want something twice as cool. Up on your bicycle. If I wanted to do it, I haven't been very clear at what speed I'm doing this, so I'm not sure if it's really fast, like 1, and you want something twice as cool. Pass me up on your bicycle. Or if it's slow, you want some, 1, and you want something twice as cool. But I think if I was going slower, then I'd want it at a faster tempo, maybe like 160. You notice at the moment we're only talking about the rhythms, we're not talking about the melodies at all. Because the melody, what we're going to do, it's a bit disorientating to think about the melody right now because we've got this other strange melody going on in the background. But we're going to look at this melody quite closely and think about what parts that we'd like repeated. So we probably wouldn't grab like these 3 and repeat them. So dun, 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 dun. We wouldn't do that because it's quite a jump, and if you're trying to say these words like want something twice as cool, dun, dun, it would be quite a mission to get that out of you. So we'd choose something like dun, 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 dun. This would be nice and easy, that little group there. So it's up to us if we want to like make it rhythmy and say something like you want something twice as cool, or 1 and you want something twice as cool, or there's so many combinations you could do with this and just that little triplet run here. So I spent some time thinking about the stems more, and I have written out what I think would be okay lyrics to a song, more or less. None of this has to be precise at this point. So I'm just going to play this through my headphones and record into here, and then I'm going to drag what I want the song to be, because we're going to be creating the structure of the song as we're thinking about the lyrics. So I have the lyrics over here. Halftime BPM 138, so I spend a couple hours just thinking about some lyrics. None of this is great. I need to spend weeks to come up with something that's intertwined with some message or something. But this is basically how you do it. So this is dun 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 dun. Hey, you wanna settle in? Have a hard time trying to settle in. You'll notice about this, I recommended that you grab one of these and repeat it for some sort of melody, some semblance of melody. But there are different chords in these 4 different sections. Remember, we put the chords in here. And so a melody that sounds good over here might sound trash over here and over here. So the rule that I've got for this is that you always want to use a melody where it sounds good, and then you can repeat it where it sounds bad once or twice, because that's not the end of the world. That part's alright, I might use that as well. So I'm going to have dun da da da, dun da da da, dun da da da, dun 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 da da. Maybe repeat it, dun 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 da da, and then dun da da dun dun da da dun dun dun. Hang on, let's have a listen. That's too crazy. So, have a hard time trying to settle in. I think that's how that went. Let me just... halftime BPM. Not sure which one of these two I want. Probably this one. What was it? BPM 138. Alright, let's just give it a go. See what happens. We're going to have to sync this all up later, and that's fine. So we're going to have one track for the verse, one track for the chorus, one track for the bridge, and then if there's a verse 2, a track for that. We'll just copy and paste the chorus later. So I'll just listen through once and try and remember. Dun, 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 dun. Have a hard time trying to settle in when you're hitting my heart with that adrenaline. All this time trying to let you in. Oh, no. Have a hard time. It's okay. Have a hard time trying to settle in when you're hitting my heart with adrenaline. Settle in when you're hitting my heart with adrenaline. Have a hard time trying to settle in, hitting my heart with adrenaline. All of that time trying to let you in. Should never let the What is this line? Should have never let the clerk hand Have a hard time trying to settle in, hitting my heart with adrenaline. All that time trying to let you in. Should have never let the bellboy check you in. Yeah, saw your diary and I read it. Did you see mine? Did you check it? I spill my heart out, get a napkin. Did you just want attention? Girl, did you just want attention? Let me tell you what okay, so this is the chorus. For the chorus we have, where are we? Okay, that's interesting. It hasn't I need to figure out how to copy this over to the chorus one, because the chorus one is stuck with that trash. I've had another problem in LMMS. Let's just copy this over, else it's going to take forever. There's no sort of logic to their grouping patterns at all. I might even just take a photo of this and copy it over like that, rather than constantly going back. That's very irritating. Okay. Something like that. It's important to have the same drum beat throughout most of the song. Change it up slightly. Do not ever touch the tempo halfway through a song because it'll sound like it's two different songs stitched together. And as much as famous people do that, never do that, because how do you explain it? It's kind of like the reason why there's different songs on a CD. They're not all just stitched together into one giant 30-minute song. It's because some people are going to like some bits, the rhythm in some bits, and not the rhythm in other bits. You're better off making different songs if you're going to do that. Anyway, what was I fixing? Something's not right. I just added that in. Kind of like it there. Actually, this ride would be quite nice there too, I think. Some sort of bounce. Anyway, that looks like it's very quiet. That's alright, we'll just run with it. So we're going to add the chorus starting from here. We'll fix it all in post. Alright. Here's the chorus. Alright. What is that first note? Let me tell you what the matter is. It's adrenaline, feeling like I'm a gold medalist. Sleeping on me, I'm a sedative. Said it's no more negatives. Being a pessimist, but now I'm past the point of being mad at this. Go green and not like cannabis, but more like who that Bruce Banner is. What the matter is, let me settle this. Keep it on wing when I paddle this. Keep it OG with the families. Keep it on me with the camera pics. Compared to this, I'm the catalyst, cataclysmic, the way that I let you pedal it, it's... That does not feel like a chorus. Okay, let's just add in... I'm feeling a bit lazy. Remember Control 3s to zoom out. We're going to need that here. Let it. It's sandwiches, 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 sandwiches. Hang on. Took a bite out of my sandwiches, 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 sandwiches. Okay, that's horrific, but whatever. Let's find another bit that we like. Dun dun. Dun dun dun. We can work with that. So you think this is standard? Alright, make sure you select the right track. So we've selected this one. Oops. This is standard because I don't want to stand for it. You let my heart get damaged. Now who's gonna pay for it? Well, I guess that I'll pay for it, 'cause we both know that I can never bring myself to hurt you. To hurt you. Whoa, 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 whoa. I take it back, those lyrics need a lot of work. Those. There's plenty to work with though, so before you edit any of this, think about, what you want to redo, how you want the layout of the song. Maybe you want verse, bridge, chorus, verse 2, chorus, or verse. Oh, I didn't do a bridge, did I? Anyway, after that, remember, you've got a whole bunch of extra noises that you're going to want to cut out. So you go to Effects, Noise Reduction, get the noise profile. So you selected this bit, got the noise profile of this bit, and you're going to select everything and apply that reduction to everything that sounded like that bit that you got. So that's reduced. There's still some more here. Oh, sorry, here's the chorus. Don't want to cut out. So for example, if I grab this word, it would cut out everything that sounds like, oh, sorry. Effect. So we're going to do it again. We're grabbing a different sample, get that as our base. And that should just make everything a little bit easier to listen to. Wait, what happened? Don't apply any effects yet. We're going to have to get the track in here first. So you go here, finish off what you're doing in here. Okay, that's still stuck on the Latin beat. We chose to go for a different beat, so we're going to delete these. I think I'm using, where's verse 1? Verse 1's got the stupid, let's not get angry, verse 1 has got the beat, the Latin beat still, so I'm just going to use verse 2 for now. Also, now that we've chosen the drums, when we finalize the drums, we're going to click on this. No, we're not. Oh no. Oh, no, it's alright, we fixed it. I fixed it. We're going to double it, so that's going to double the length. Alright. But only when you finalize the drum pattern that you want, and then you can add in an extra. Oh my goodness, how do I? Oh, what is that? So the second half's going to sound the exact same as the first half, unless we add like a little sneaky something extra on the end. Yep. So check all that, make sure it sounds fine. I know this is going to sound great, so we'll just. How much should I allow for here?
I'm trying to remember playing all of that time trying to let you kind of settle in. Spill my. Did you just wanna? Oh. Have a hard time. Ugh.
Chorus versus chorus. Don't know what we're gonna do here yet. None of that really matters. Those are all fine. I think that's CD quality and that's like studio quality or something. Can't remember. Find the export folder. Where is it? See user documents.
Have a hard time.
things to watch out for when you're doing this. Make sure that your BPM's the same. The exported BPM is the same as the one that you recorded, and these are extremely quiet. At some point we're going to have to make these 3 louder. We might as well do it before we drop in this loud one. It'll just be easier to select everything. This will automatically go to the maximum possible without it clipping. Okay, I'm not very happy with that. So to get it louder, you can see it's clipping here. So we'll just zoom in. If we make it any louder, that's going to clip. So we're just going to amplify this by a bit of a negative. Oh, that might be too much. That might be noticeable. Just by a little bit. Nope. Control A, effect, amplify. What is it, 0.6? Where is that clipping it? Oh, it must still be there. Okay. Cool, that'll do for now. Drop this in. Now we're going to sync it up. Let's find where this starts.
Have a hard time.
Oh, there might be a bit of a breath before that, so we'll just get rid of this. I think this is all trash.
We're going to have 1 track. Have a hard time trying to settle in. Hit in my heart.
There's actually nothing before that, so we're just gonna find the easiest way is just to silence it and copy and paste. Okay, we're just gonna amplify these separately because I can't really hear what's happening. That's the maximum. Cool.
Have a hard time trying to settle in. Hitting my heart with adrenaline. All that.
So there's clearly tempo issues, pitch issues, that's fine.
Oh, sorry, here's the chorus. Alright.
You're apologising for your Canadian.
What is that first note? Let me tell you what the matter is. It's adrenaline. Feeling like I'm a gold medalist.
So the chorus starts.
Did you attention? Let me tell you what. Okay, so this is
the chorus, that's right.
Attention. Let me tell you what the matter is.
So I think we had the chorus land on the let. So one, let me tell you what the matter is. So before the let. So it's not let me tell you what the matter is. It's not let me tell you what the matter is. It's one, let me tell you what the matter is. So there's a slight.
Just want attention. Let me tell you what. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually in line with that one. So we can just copy that, I think.
Let me tell you what the matter is. Okay, so this is the chorus.
More or less.
Let me tell you what the matter.
It needs to come slightly sooner.
Let me tell.
Where are we?
Let me tell you what the matter.
Nope, not that much sooner.
Let me tell you what the matter is. It's adrenaline. Feeling like I'm a gold medalist. Sleeping on me, I'm.
So you can Control X and Control V to basically drag a blob left or right. So if I wanted to drag it to the right, I would Control X and Control V. This one we're going to need to speed up a tiny bit, but we'll do that later. We're going to be adding a lot of stuff to make this sound nicer, so it doesn't really matter if we're forgetting the drums in some bits at the moment. This is in here just so that we can line up the melody and the timing correctly. Because when we load in the next one, it's going to start from the same place. When we load in the next iteration of this instrumental backing track.
Do you think this is standard? Because I don't want to stand for it.
Oh goodness, I have no idea what rhythm that's supposed to be.
To stand for it.
What was I doing?
Do you think this is
So that dude
standard?
probably comes on the one. Standard. No one says standard like that, dude. It's gross.
Do you think this is standard? Because I don't want to stand for it. You let my heart get damaged. Now who's gonna pay for it? Well, I guess that I'll pay for it. Cause we both know that I can never bring myself to hurt you.
So we're good to adjust the pitch and the timing of everything now. I'll just merge these together. You don't have to merge them, but I'm going to do that because when I add the effects I'm going to merge them anyway. In this next bit I'm going to be correcting the pitch to the nearest appropriate one according to the chords that we've got, or the melody that we've chosen. And I'm going to be correcting the timing to make everything fit snugly with the beat. I'm going to be showing you the process of doing that at a very fast speed, so it'll take like a minute max for you to watch, but you'll get a sense of how long that you should spend doing this. It's actually quite a long time and it gets really tiring, and it's much easier in a program, but this is fine. I remember to save it. So we're going to be doing all of the downwards pitch adjustments first. So we'll go through the whole thing and do these slight downwards pitch adjustments, maybe -3 I find works well. Make sure that's ticked. Because then we can click on Effect, Repeat Change Pitch, Control R, and so instead of having to, with every blob, guesstimate how much we want to adjust it downwards or upwards, we can go through the whole thing. If we know it has to go down, we can hit Control R a few times to figure out. So that's obviously too much, but that's the general idea. So you can just tap Control R and it saves a whole bunch of time and effort. And then afterwards we'll go through it and we'll adjust the pitch upwards by the same amount and find the blobs that we want to adjust upwards and do those separately. You can do it the long way, up to you. Some quick tips: make a copy track so that you have a reference to go back to. You can also copy and paste from that track in case things go wrong. Tip number 2, record an extra copy of whatever you just did so that you can replace a part if you didn't quite get it right or it's too hard to edit in the recording. export this. Ignore all that. This is quite hard to find if you don't know what you're doing. Double click on one of these blocks. Open your file like that.
Have a hard time trying to settle in, hitting my heart with adrenaline. All that time trying to let you in. Should've never let the bellboy check you in.
Alright, well, unfortunately this sounds so bad I don't really want to work with my own vocals too much. So I'm just going to tell you how this is done and then stop it here, because I can't stand listening to this, my own vocals, for too long. What you do is you click on one of these. You want to add reverb, the top one, it's easy to use. Compressor, a multi-band one that you can adjust. EQ 10-band equalizer is good. And that's it, you don't want to touch anything else, and that'll be your vocal track done once you've tweaked with those. There's heaps of tutorials online about them, so I don't want to go over them. And you can do that with the individual instruments as well. Let's go fix chain, add effect. Add reverb, compression, everything you want now. It'll be all but impossible to make an okay sounding drop in this program, so I wouldn't even bother trying with that. Then once you finish this, you can export it. I'm very unhappy with my audio, not just because of the lyrics. It's good to have convoluted lyrics to start off with, because then you can look back at them critically and remove the excess. It's like pottery, you want to start off with more than you need and then remove stuff rather than having to add on bits later, because that's a lot more difficult to get right. But most of these lyrics are just so nonsensical, like and grammatically there's problems as well. For example, with the Hulk bit, like that who Bruce Banner is, no one talks like that. I need to think of a word that I can just put in there, get rid of those 5 random grammatically terrible words. It's not about having bad grammar, but it's about being smart with your word choices, so I'd need to fix that. So I could spend another hour going through all the effects and how you apply them and how you make the side chaining work, but there's tutorials on all of that online. So I'm going to stop it here, because the main purpose of this was to give you an understanding of how you can make good melodies using a framework, the one that I use, where you don't look at the scales. There's no A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because if you use the framework that I'm using instead, it becomes very easy to compare different melodies. It's like all the songs in the world are suddenly put into one key and they can all be compared against one another. And it just allows for a lot more direction with creativity, not less creativity. So I think I'll end it there. I'm really over listening and editing this terrible tune and lyrics. But if I did this about 10 more times and then mixed in the bits that I liked, I'd create a pretty awesome sounding track. But I don't even want to play this through anymore, it's so pitchy. I'd have to re-record everything, go through everything again. But as you saw, it took a very long time, and this program is not ideal for it, and neither is Audacity. It's not suited for the pitch adjustments, because in Audacity you have to adjust the pitch blobs when they're completely merged in with the blobs to the left and the right, whereas other programs that automate this, like Melodyne, will separate the blobs for the different words, so when you drag it, you're not going to create a sound where it overlaps with the next and previous, where it connects with the next and previous blobs. And when you adjust the pitch in other programs, you can add a thing called formant, which will offset the twanginess that you'll get. For example, when you pitch it upwards, if you go la and you pitch it up and it goes ah, you want to adjust the formant and it'll go ah. That adds a different quality to the sound. There are a few other things that make adjusting in Audacity extremely hard, but it is possible, and if you've got the time and the patience, or you don't have the money, then it's definitely worth thinking about. So thank you for watching. I hope you learnt a thing or two, and maybe you'll consider looking at music differently in the future. That's all for now. This will be the last big project that I do before I get married, settle down, have kids. So I guess that's good to get this out there. There'll be a link to the page which explains my different approach to music regarding the chords and scales below in the description. And thank you for spending the time to watch this video. It's been great talking to you and to myself.